Guys, I'm a huge cinema buff and I was so disappointed when the latest James Bond release was postponed because of COVID, and that after a battering year.
Tasha, don't slouch.
I'm not slouching.
So in this video, let's look at whether the UK cinema will recover and if as investors we can cash in on the rise. So movie theatres, as they were called, were dying, but now as they reopen, the sector seems quite uncertain. The COVID-19 pandemic and lockdowns have left the biggest chains in cinema at the edge of becoming bankrupt, with the owner of Cineworld and Odeon, which is AMC Entertainment Holdings, having to raise additional capital and negotiate debts to save itself from going under.
How many others are there?
So then obviously I started looking at AMC stock and was surprised to see it has been quite resilient, guys. The stock has been trending upward, and that rather large spike that you're seeing was caused by that short squeeze in AMC, which was a target for vloggers and Reddit forums.
Okay, if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if the stock is gonna go up, down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
You can see my video here which talks about AMC back then. I really want to understand if this stock is showing positive conviction, is it right? And is there more of an upside which is still to be priced in? Granted, I am in a very different situation with 2 toddlers. Escaping to the cinema to watch a movie, well, that's just impossible these days. So there are 2 main things to consider when thinking about cinemas, and that relates to how the market for consuming film has changed over the last year. And before that too, the way I think of the lockdown is that it has acted as an accelerant for certain industries that were already in demise, and cinema is one of them.
What happened? What are you doing?
Audiences have been shifting to streaming services for some time now, and Netflix, Amazon, and the awesome Disney Plus, which has been on a roll in our house, are collecting audiences in bigger numbers and thus can dictate production to suit their audiences.
Does the air seem a bit thin to you up here?
Home streaming has been pulling in audiences from cinemas prior to the lockdown, and the lockdown has just massively accelerated it. Studios have what they call a window, and this is a period of time a release is allowed to run exclusive on cinema screens, and that is before the movies are released for home video. And traditionally that's been 90 days, but the majority of Hollywood studios have been cutting that 90 days to a shorter period before the movie transitions to home video. Some films, even big budget, are just going straight to home video too.
Don't you think I realize what's going on here, miss? Who do you think I am, huh?
The second point is, on the face of it, it might seem that this is something the studios have always done, have lower quality or budget films or independent films go straight to video. But no, this is a little bit different, with a lot of the major studios now having their own streaming services, Paramount, Disney Plus, or even Warner Brothers and HBO Max. There is literally no rush to build an audience that creates the annuity revenues that subscribers pay. So in order to build those audiences, the streaming services and the content has to be the best available for subscribers. Take Warner Brothers as an example. There are plans to reduce the 90-day window from cinema to home video by half to only 45 days.
Back to the future! Back to the future!
Now, with that being said, there is generally optimism in the market, although it will take longer to get back into that steady state. I was reading an article where Phil Clapp, who is a CEO for the UK Cinema Association, mentioned that he expects the industry to recover.
Love good news. I just love good news.
For the rest of the year and these challenging COVID-19 protocols, they will definitely dent box office takings. Even with the success of the vaccine programs, consumers are still nervous of returning. I don't know about you, and that was a similar sentiment with UK pubs opening this week. Recent research has also shown that audiences are missing the cinema. I am for sure.
Oh yeah, you can milk anything with nipples.
There was a research article posted by the Film Distributors Association that cited about 60% of people said they miss going to the cinema as one of the going out activities.
I can't lie!
It also showed that the most avid streamers were big fans of the cinema and keen to return. And I'm not surprised. That's all well and good, but how do we back them up when thinking of whether to invest in the cinema industry? Well, there are some nice case studies that we can refer to when lockdowns have eased and cinemas have reopened in countries like Russia, China, and big old Japan. Taking China as an example though, audience have now grown beyond pre-pandemic levels, showing that actually people are going to the cinema more often than before.
Dance off, bro!
Now, my husband is a bit of a homebody and he is all over the streaming bandwagon.
Unagi is a state.
He He was telling me about all the films that were coming straight to streaming. Look how bad Tenet did from Christopher Nolan when it did go to the cinema. And yes, it's true, there have been a few films which I have seen go straight to Netflix or Prime. Some of these include Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. I love the first one. I am the child of the 80s. My mom was really looking forward to that movie. Mulan and The Trials of the Chicago 7. You have to remember that's not true of the vast majority of films, with blockbuster tags that have been held back or pushed back by the studios to take advantage and maximize revenues. And these include films like James Bond, Avatar 2, Mission Impossible 7. So similarly with Marvel having the outlet of Disney Plus, which has been a roar in our house, I'm not gonna lie, there are a few box office potential films that seemingly will also be held back, and these include Black Widow and the next Spider-Man. So you've got to admit, for the next year at least, the cinema will be a super vibe, fun place to be. Even with the shortened cinema exclusive window, cinemas should have a lucrative run. The stats show that 90% of box office takes for a new release is made in the first 4 to 5 weeks, which is great. Also, back when I was dating and all that jazz, cinemas are now moving away from dingy, sticky seats and carpets to much more fun experiences with food, drink, better seats, comfort, sofas. I could go on and on, but focusing on the experience itself is where the edge in cinema is. So we will always want to be seeing the big blockbusters like James Bond in the cinema. It's what cinema is made for, and the cinema chains get that. View is spending about £60 million to improve sites within these facilities, and I'm looking forward to that. But where is the opportunity for investors? So from a UK perspective, the obvious stock is Cineworld, which is still trending below its long-term average, and in March 2020 it still had the majority of cinemas closed. So it may be a good time now to consider looking at this stock. My favourite chain is actually Everyman, and I look at the stock price and it has been trending up about 41.5% in the last 6 months, but again below its long-term average. I talked about plush lush cinema experiences, and Everyman is all about that, so it'd be a good pick if we believe in cinemas moving in that direction, which they obviously are. But the big elephant in the room, of course, is AMC Entertainment, which is up 300% guys year to date. What a ride, and probably some way to go, but it will be volatile given the interest from short sellers and Reddit forums. Now, with lockdown easing and people spending money, us personal finance folk will notice inflation rearing its ugly head. And so as we move past the 1 year anniversary of lockdown and we start seeing things generally looking up, I wanted to cover the 3 scenarios that are getting discussed so much in our house, which are linked to beating inflation in 2021. So you can click here and I'll take you through them. See you there.